Hi there. Welcome to Dead Air Live. I'm Craig Bouchard, and tonight I'm pleased to welcome to our show acclaimed stand-up comic and humorist Jimmy Tingle. His television appearances include The Tonight Show, Larry King Weekend, The Late Show with Conan O'Brien, HBO's One Night Stand, the American Comedy Awards, and a stint as contributor and satirist on MSNBC. He also spent 2 seasons as the humorous commentator in the Andy Rooney spot on CBS's 60 Minutes 2. He's been seen in such films as Next Stop Wonderland, shot here in Somerville for parts of it, Boondock Saints, also a Boston production? No?
Yeah.
A Boston production. And recently finished work on the new Chris Rock movie, Head of State. He's also currently starring in his one-man show, Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land, at Jimmy Tingle's Off-Broadway, which is located in Davis Square in Somerville. So I would like to welcome Jimmy Tingle.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming on Dead Air Live. We're very pleased to have you. And you're a very busy man nowadays.
I am. I am. Look at me, pouring my Poland spring water right here.
We're only the best for you.
You know, when I was at 60 Minutes, they would always tell me, Jimmy, try to do something, do things that people can identify with, you know? Right. And he's saying simple themes, I said, well, bottled water. I mean, it's hilarious. Poland Springs, it said right in the label, from deep in the woods of Maine. Right, the first time I saw that, I'm saying, yeah, right. I picture some kid, Eddie Poland, from Portland, Maine, down a cellar with a garden hose, filling these things up. Yeah, we'll bring these down to Bread and Circus. They love this stuff. So my boss, this guy was great. He goes, Jimmy, take a camera crew up to Maine. Go see if there really is a Poland Springs deep in the woods of Maine. You know what? There is a Poland Springs, and it is deep in the woods of Maine. Well, it's near a gas station, but it's in Maine. Yeah. But I started to pay attention to a lot of the bottled waters, and they can be pretty funny. We'll get into that later on in the interview, but I love those bottled waters.
Well, we want to have you drinking only the best here.
Yeah.
Now your show is doing really well. You're getting great reviews.
Yeah.
And you have been performing since the show opened when?
We opened November 20th.
November 20th.
November 20th, and we were going to go through just December 31st, right. And the response was really, tremendous. We couldn't believe it, and we sold out a ton of shows around Christmas, so we kept going, and we're going now through March 2nd.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and I got to see the show December 27th, and
you got a good memory.
I've been working on it, and they were packed. The whole place was packed, and great response, and it seemed like it was something that was going to pick up momentum and go beyond at that point. So yeah, it was excellent.
Thank you.
So what inspired you to create this show? What did the show come out of?
Well, first of all, I'm a comic by trade, but I love working in the one-man show format. I love doing theaters because you're just much more free to talk about a lot of issues. It doesn't have to be joke, joke, joke. It can be very funny, but you can have a theme to the show. The name of the show is Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land, and it really starts off with the story of the Exodus and God appearing to Moses and telling Moses to go lead the Jewish people out of the bondage of Egypt into the Promised Land of freedom. And so I just kind of take off on that with the plagues and everything, but then it just develops into really the Promised Land has a lot of different meanings. It means is obviously the biblical phrase, but also America in many respects is the Promised Land to millions of people, and so it's kind of it's a way to talk about where we are as a society in a humorous way, but still have a spiritual theme to it. Because I always get criticized for preaching. Jim, stop preaching. You want to be a preacher? Go to preaching school. Right. But it just puts things into perspective a little bit more using a biblical phrase like the Promised Land. So if you're talking about what would God think about this or whatever, it makes sense when it's in that framework. Otherwise, people come to the show, and if they're not prepared for it, they can get a little uncomfortable.
Have you experienced that? Have you gotten any? Because when I was there, overall the reaction seemed to be extremely positive.
Yeah.
Has there been any sort of, I wouldn't imagine negative response, but
I think sometimes the religion aspect can make people uncomfortable. Right. If they're either not religious or if they're not open to hearing about anything spiritual, or they're fundamentalists. They only think a certain way.
Right.
I got a couple of emails that said, "You want to be a preacher or a comic?" You know, I got a couple of those. And some other people, you know, tend to be very intellectual, and they think the problems of the world are, you know, a matter of figuring out it intellectually things. And,
Right.
and I got a couple of those, but overall, the people are pretty responsive, and also they're accepting of what you're doing. They come to a theater show, and you don't have to agree with what you see in a play. That's the great thing about a play or a theater show, that you can take audiences, you can challenge them intellectually, politically, spiritually, whatever.
Right.
And most, you know, 95% of the people will go along for the hour and a half on the journey.
Right. That's actually one of the things that when we left the theater, I went with my parents and my sister and her boyfriend.
See? I work clean. He brought his mother and father. Look at that. You know why I work clean? Because my mother comes.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure because I'd seen you perform. I think I'd seen you at the Ding Ho reunion. Yeah. Which a little different tenor at that particular show.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So I wasn't sure. Like, Mom, is she going to be? Is this going to be an F-bomb here, F-bomb there? You know, but it was very tasteful, and we came out of it talking about politics, talking about spirituality too, which is not something that my family generally talks about. Right. So it was very interesting in that respect. So, but you started off, I take it in the 70s.
I started I started around 1980.
1980.
Yeah, and I started. I did all kinds of different shows. I did open mic nights and you know, gong shows. I started right here in the Ding Ho, in Cambridge, in Inman Square, Cambridge, and at the open mic nights with Lenny Clark and the comics that are well known now, a lot of them, Paula Poundstone and Steve Sweeney and Bobby Goldthwait and oh boy, Jack Gallagher, Barry Crimmins, Teddy Bergeron, Stephen Wright, a lot of people who did very well, Dennis Leary, were all there at the time, and that's where we started. And you know, it was about 1980, I guess, I started. And I actually did street performing when I first started. You know, and I admit there is a fine line between street performing and simply being drunk in public. I admit that. As a matter of fact, the day Ronald Reagan got shot, I was up in the subways in Harvard Square playing my harmonica and doing my hit song, the Poopa Scoopa Blues, right? And it was a protest song against the newly enacted Poopa Scoopa legislation, you know. And I'm out there playing my harmonica, and the song entails getting down on all fours and howling like a dog. So I'm out there going, wah, 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 let my doggy do what he's gotta do. I do, wah, 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 wah. And a friend of mine, I'm howling, ow! And a friend of mine from high school comes up to me and goes, "Jimmy, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm becoming a comedian, man. It's my new calling in life." He said, "Comedian? What are you, crazy? President Reagan just got shot." I said, "Don't look at me. I've been here all afternoon." But anyway, when you start, you know, everybody starts at the bottom. I don't know if everybody's on their knees in the subway, but we all have our journeys.
Well, you probably had a great spot in the subway. Well, so your show, has it evolved as you've gone?
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's topical and political. So as things change in the headlines, the show tends to change. And I'm a good adder of material, okay? But I'm not a good subtractor. My directors always tell me, "Jimmy, you keep adding things, and it goes from 90 minutes to 95 to 100 to 120 to 200. I mean, I'll be up there for 5 hours if I just keep adding. So I have to take things out as I go. And I'm very good at putting things in. I'm not good at taking things out. But I have to work at it, because otherwise the show will be, you know, 3 hours long, and people will be like, "Please, can we go home, Mr. Comedian? We got our $20 worth. Let us go, please."
Well, you picked the right theater, because time does not exist down there. You're in the bottom of the basement there, and you know, we came out, and you know, day was still on. So we went to the matinee show.
Oh, good.
So you know, but I would love to actually see the show again. I know that it's changed as things have gone by in terms of time. There's a lot of stuff to cover. So are you?
And the show has a theme of 9/11 to it. I mean, because I pick up where I left off at 60 Minutes. And I show a couple of video clips of that. And then we talk about 9/11, and then we talk about really taking off from there, and you know, where we are with the new administration, where we are, the war on terrorism, the war in Iraq, you know, and these types of themes, and where they relate to the theme of the Promised Land.
Right.
So it kind of ties together quite nicely through the whole show.
Excellent. Well, why don't we go to...
if I do say so myself.
we actually
if I do say it comes together quite nicely.
We actually have the beginning of the show. Yeah. Why don't we go into that?
All right.
And we'll show and give people a taste of what Jimmy Tingle and the Promised Land is all about. And we'll come back and talk a bit more.
Beautiful.
So, without further ado, we'll go to that clip.
Welcome to Jimmy Tingle's Off-Broadway in our first production, Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land. And I'm Jimmy Tingle. Thank you. And the Promised Land is a biblical phrase, first spoken by God to Moses when God appeared to Moses in the form of a burning bush and said, "Moses, I'm not just another burning bush. This is God speaking. I want you to lead the Jewish people out of the bondage of Egypt into the promised land of freedom." Moses was so scared he couldn't even look at God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, you got the wrong guy. I'm not qualified to lead anybody, any place. What, are you kidding me? I'm lucky I got out of high school. I mean, if they had the MCAS when I was a boy, I'd still be a junior. Don't worry about it. I want you to follow my directions, Moses, and go tell the Pharaoh to let my people go. And if he doesn't let them go, I'm going to visit 10 plagues upon him and the Egyptian people. Oh, God, I am so flattered that out of all the people you know, you would choose me. But you got to understand something, God. I am a sinner. I'm not qualified to do that type of work. I'm a sinner. I once killed a man in Egypt. I saw him beating up a slave, and I killed him. Don't worry about it. I've killed a lot of people. Deep down inside, we all have a little Tony Soprano in us. Moses, I want you to go tell the Pharaoh to let my people go. Let the Jewish people go out of the bondage of Egypt into the promised land of freedom. And if you follow my directions, Moses, you and your people will achieve your freedom. And having achieved your freedom, Moses, you will have a moral obligation to help other people to achieve their freedom. Is that a deal? Sure, God. I mean, I'll do my best. Look at me. That's all I'm asking. Look at Moses. Look at God. That's all I'm asking. Just do your best. Now go. Go. Go tell the Pharaoh. Okay. I'm going. How you doing, Pharaoh? It's me, Moses. You're not going to believe this. I was just talking to God. And he really wants you to let the Jewish people go. Let the Jewish people go? God telling the mighty Pharaoh to let the Jewish people go? If I let the Jewish people go, the economy will collapse. I'm sorry, the Jews are my slaves. If I let the slaves go, the economy will collapse. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Tell God I can't do it. Can I get another grape, please? There you go. I'm telling you, Pharaoh, he is very serious. He says if you don't let him go, he's going to visit 10 plagues upon you and the Egyptian people. 10 plagues upon the mighty Pharaoh. What's a plague? I don't really know, but God has at least 10 of them. Well, tell God I cannot jeopardize the economy of Egypt for the freedom of the Jewish people. I'm sorry, we can't do it. Okay, Pharaoh. Okay, Pharaoh. God, I tried. You're not going to believe what he said. I heard what he said, Moses. Okay, Pharaoh. Zing! God sends the first plague. He turns all the water in Egypt into blood. Ooh. Extremely nasty. Nobody could go swimming. Nobody could take a shower. Everybody had to drink bottled water. And it was very expensive. Came all the way from Poland Springs in Maine. Are you going to let him go? I'm not letting him go. Zing! God sends gnats. Millions and millions and millions of gnats. Are you going to let him go? I'm not letting him go. Zing! God sends flies. Big gnats. Gnats that work out. Gnats that belong to the Y. Are you going to let him go? I'm not letting him go. Zing! God sends frogs. Millions and millions and millions of frogs. I'm acting. I'm acting in my theater. You act like a lily pad. Are you going to let him go? I'm not letting him go. Zing! God sends hail. Zing! God sends locusts. The locusts eat what's left of the Egyptian lawns. They eat all the golf courses. They have to cancel the Middle East Open. Are you going to let them go? I'm not letting them go! Zing! God sends boils. Now, I'm not talking about the family down the street. They're good people. I'm talking about those blisters we all get from time to time. Are you going to let them go? I'm not letting them go! Zing! God sends pestilence. 50 million Egyptians without health insurance. And even those who had health insurance, Tufts wouldn't cover it. Are you going to let them go? I'm not letting them go! Zing! God sends darkness. This starts to affect the Pharaoh. News blackout. The media is not paying any attention to him. He appears on the balcony to make a big speech. No one's there to hear him. His own people start goofing on him. They're hiding in the bushes. Hey, Pharaoh, you won the lottery. Who said that? You gonna let him go? I'm not letting him go. Zing! God sends the 10th and final plague, the death of the firstborn. And even the Pharaoh, in his arrogance and his ignorance and his ego, could not and would not tolerate the death of the firstborn, because the death of the firstborn signified the future. And even the Pharaoh, in his arrogance and his ignorance and his ego, could not and would not jeopardize the future of Egypt. So the mighty Pharaoh finally succumbed to the will of God and allowed the Jewish people to go. And in the words of Golda Meir, one of the founders of modern-day Israel, who so eloquently said it, Moses led the Jewish people out of the bondage of Egypt, and they wandered for 40 years in the desert and settled in the only place in the Middle East without oil. Now, the Promised Land has since become a metaphor for other groups of people trying to achieve their freedom. The Pilgrims coming to these shores hundreds of years ago in search of religious freedom. The pioneers crossing the Great Plains.
All right. Hi, you're watching Dead Air Live. Tonight I have as my guest Jimmy Tingle. That was a little clip from Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land.
That's right.
And
we are in the Promised Land.
We are, yes.
Somerville cable access.
That's what we like.
Is the Promised Land.
That's right.
We're coming into your house.
Well, we actually, you're actually in the Promised Land if Somerville Community Access is. You're now in Davis Square. Mm-hmm. How has it been for you moving into a new theater or taking on a new show? It must have been quite the...
Moses had the Red Sea. I have the Red Line. It's been great.
Excellent.
The Red Line takes you right to the Promised Land. It's great. I lucked out coming across the theater. You know, I was, the other gentleman who was running it, Larry Lee Lewis, it was the Elm Street Theater. I went down there, talked to him about maybe getting a booking there, and he said to me, you know, he says, you know what, Jimmy, I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't want to run the theater. He said, if you're interested in leasing the theater, I'll introduce you to the owner, Bob Gorin. And I said, gee, boy, I've always wanted my own place to have a home base, you know. And so I said, sure, I would be interested in talking to Bob. And Mr. Gorin and his son Michael were just fabulous, fabulous people. I couldn't ask for a nicer landlord. They're really great people. Anyway, to make a long story short, he loved the idea of me coming in, and we just got a ton of support from the area. Jack Conley, the alderman there from Davis Square, was just bent over backwards to make things happen. Steve Mackey over the Chamber of Commerce. Everybody. We've been able to develop a few partnerships with some of the local businesses in the area. Red Bones, we're doing a dinner show package, with Red Bones, and they love it. And you know, I get to stop over at the Burn and get to stop over the Diesel Cafe. You know, it's beautiful. I mean, I'm in heaven.
When you used to
Dunkin' Donuts is across the street. Starbucks is over there.
There you go. You're in caffeine heaven.
Yeah, yeah.
So you actually, one of the movies you were in, Next Up in Wonderland, you played the bartender of Burn. Wasn't it? Well, maybe it wasn't the Burn, but it was. It was shot?
Something like that. Yeah. It wasn't shot at the Burn.
Oh.
It was a. Well, what they do is they create a scene. They created a bar, and it was actually in East Boston. But the name of it might have been the Burn. But anyway, yeah, I played a bartender in that particular movie. That was a lot of fun.
Do you enjoy? I mean, obviously the theater show is very different from. You know, working on screen.
Yeah.
You've been doing a bunch of stuff though lately. You worked in Head of State with Chris Rock.
Right. Chris Rock called me up. out of the blue.
Really?
Yeah, this was in July. And he says, Jimmy Tingle, one of the greats.
Wow.
I swear to God.
Oh my God, that's excellent.
Yeah, you know, what it is, on the comedy scene, on the circuit, you get to work with people all over the place. I mean, everybody started together in,
Yep.
you know, 20 years ago. And so you evolve and everybody's working, you meet people in New York. So anyway, he calls me up. I haven't talked to him in 5 years. He calls me up, one of the greats. You know, he goes, you know, he says all this stuff. Anyway, he tells me about his new film where he's running for president in the film. And he wanted me to help him as a political, they call it a consultant on the film. It's not, you're not technically a writer. You sit around the table with 4 or 5 other people and work on the script. And so they give you the script. And so we did that for a while, and I gave him some material that he really loved, and they put it in the film. And he actually gave me a part in the film. I play, you know Chris Matthews on Hardball?
Yeah.
I play a Chris Matthews type character. And so Chris Rock is running for president, and I'm interviewing him, you know?
Right.
And I'm going, Chris Rock, who are you to be the president, right? But his name's not Chris Rock. He plays an alderman from Washington, D.C. It's a real funny, it's going to be great when it comes out. So the name of it's Head of State. But anyway, that was a ball doing that.
That's excellent, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry to interrupt. But
no, but that's how the business is, you know, at least the way I do it. I mean, I do my one-man shows. Right. It's total freedom. Then you also, you know, you're writing and thinking, and I'm doing some commentaries now for Fox News. I do some things for the radio now and then. You know, like you were saying, I did some things for television for 60 Minutes too. I do some acting here and there, you know, and a lot of different things that you can do. I love the theater being the home base because we're allowed to bring in other acts. Ultimately, I'd love it to be able to, you know, my whole idea was, okay, how can I make this theater go? I said, I'll put myself in it, and I'll basically gamble on myself, you know, put myself in it. I know the show's going to be good, you know, and as good as I can make it anyway.
Right.
And I think that'll help establish the room. And then hopefully it'll be fiscally solvent, you know, so it's got its head above water, and then we'll bring in other shows. And that's kind of the game plan. And then we'll try to have some time for other acts that are developing, you know, either people developing one-person shows or new playwrights or playwrights doing new material or new playwrights, or, you know, I'd like to be able to have local talent, to, you know, have a place to work. But that's all down the road. We're still finding our way. We only had the lease since November, so we're still finding our way in terms of scheduling and what the best way to schedule it, and so that it's paying for itself, but it's also providing a lot of different functions for a lot of different people.
Yeah, excellent. And I think Davis Square also, I mean, it's an excellent spot. It's exciting because they haven't had that, I think, a great comedy spot in Somerville. So I think
and it'll be, you know, it'll be comedy, but it'll also be, you know, serious work too. Right. I mean, I want to be able to put in a serious play, or be able to put in maybe some music, maybe some folk music, maybe some, you know, it can't be. I don't know about bands. You know, I mean, I don't know if it's right for bands. Right. We don't have a liquor license or anything right now. We probably won't get one, but you know, right now we're just. You know, it's got to be kind of on the mellow side. Maybe some poetry, maybe some open mic nights, but that's down the road a little bit.
Well, now your show has kind of, it's obviously a comedy show, but it also has a serious tinge to it throughout.
Sure.
Now, how has that changed throughout the course of the show? I mean, I know you talked about it evolving with, you know, things coming up, but because of dealing with the, you know, events of September 11th, have you seen the show, you know, take on a different tone?
You know. It has. I mean, the show always had a beginning, a middle, and end. There was always a theme of the Promised Land. There was a theme of 9/11 in there, because the show picks up where I left off in 2000 at 60 Minutes too. So obviously, it's 2001. 9/11 is right in the middle of that. So how I react as a comic? How does a comic react to something like as tragic as September 11th? And it was very difficult because you don't know. I don't even know if I want to perform anymore. I mean. You know, who was in the mood to be out there trying to make jokes? There's nobody, and myself included. But I had some material. I mean, I had some bookings that I had to do. People wanted me to do them, and they were already on the book, so I had to respond and do it. And some interesting things happened along the way. In that first performance after September 11th, very interesting experience happened with a woman who was in the audience. I mean, we can take a look at that. If you have, I think you have that clip
I think we do have that queued up. Yeah, I believe so. We might as well go to that, and we can talk about more about the show and whatnot after that. So if we can go to that clip, this is again Jimmy Tingle and his show Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land. Enjoy.
Was in Quincy. Now. Look, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying, once you've been on 60 Minutes, you can pretty much work any stop on the red line. Mayor Menino gave me the token to the city. And after the show, a woman came up to me. She said, I just have to tell you, I'm a flight attendant with American Airlines, and I've been so sad for so many weeks now, and it was just so wonderful to be with a community of people laughing again. Please continue to do what you're doing. It had a great healing effect on me this evening. And when this woman said that, she took the weight of the world off my shoulders because she was giving me permission to be a comic again. And inadvertently, she was giving the audiences permission to be audiences again. And I thanked her profusely. I said, you know, your words have helped me a million more times than my words could ever help you. Thank you so much for saying what you said. And on the way home that night, I was thinking about what a great gift this was for this person to say that. But I was also thinking about the dilemma that I was facing and many other people were facing. You know, I mean, I'm a comic. I specialize in social and political humor, okay? Is it now appropriate to be satirizing the government when the nation's at war, you know? Is that the right thing to do? I mean, you know, 2 years ago, if I did a Bush joke or a Clinton joke and somebody didn't like it, hey, no big deal, huh? Entertainment. All of a sudden, treason. You see the difference? Ha ha ha! Ho ho ho! You go from the full house to the big house. I'll be at Guantanamo Bay. Bag over my head. Yeah, bring the funny man in here. Go ahead. Hey, sit down, funny man. Okay, let's do the Bush joke. Do the Bush joke. It was an old Clinton joke, just reworked, really. And I know we have to respect human rights, even with prisoners of war. We have to respect the Geneva Convention, because we're the United States. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, okay? That being said, if you have been taken prisoner from the caves of Afghanistan in the winter and brought to the Caribbean, it's a step up. I mean, I'll bet you right now, there were people at the Kabul airport in Afghanistan going, the Caribbean? I'm with the Taliban. I am with the Taliban! Honey, get the kids. We're going to Cuba. They have health care. We are all with the Taliban! She was a lieutenant with the Taliban! So I wasn't sure the right approach.
All right, thank you. And you're watching Dead Air Live. My name's Craig Bouchard. I'm here with Jimmy Tingle. That was a clip from Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land. Now, so you had that sort of epiphany. It's time to perform again.
Yeah,
and
that's what the woman said. She said that laughter was making her, and she was a flight attendant with American Airlines. She'd been to dozens of funerals in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
And she was saying, thank you. And that just blew me away.
Right.
Because, and I said, you know something, what you're doing is important. It's, you know, I mean, to me it's, you know, I don't always see it as being important, but she was telling me it was important for her.
Right, right. Now, after, you know, you have that realization, you've got a man in the White House who I know that I was reading an article where you stated, I think it was in you're in the Improper Bostonian.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, and easiest target out there, who is it? W.
Yeah, but he wasn't the easiest target. It's very interesting because after the 11th, people had, millions and millions of people had empathy. People who didn't vote for him were really laid off him. The whole Democratic Party laid off. I mean, nobody wanted to, because people empathized with the predicament that he was in, you know, and I think, you know, most people did, and myself included. But you still want to, there's always a balance to be struck. How do you remove the predicament and the actions that the person's taking? You know, how do you remove the policies from the individual? You know, you don't want to attack the individual as a man because nobody wants to be in a predicament like that.
Right.
But how do you still either agree or disagree with the policies that are coming out of the administration. So that's always the balancing act.
Well, I like the stance you're taking in terms of, you're saying policies. You know, the guys like the Lenos, the late night guys who were taking pot shots at him before,
right.
They also backed off, I noticed,
Yeah.
in those few months afterwards. Right. But I think you seem to take a different sort of spin on him. You do sort of go at his politics rather than his fumbles. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make fun of the way the guy talks. I don't speak that well, which will become more clear as the interview continues. But that's nothing.
Right.
I mean, it's something, but it's not the issue. The issues are with your policies and what direction are you taking the country and what do you think is best for the country. And that's the type of material that I tend to look at, because I think that's the most important part of any president. It's not Clinton's sex life, or it's Clinton's policies. It's not Bush's speech, although they can be funny,
Oh, yeah.
It can be funny, but it's really to get at it, to be more than just a comic, and to go underneath, to be a satirist or a humorist or somebody who's trying to make a point with using humor. You have to go deeper than just the surface.
Right. Now, have you, like, for instance, last week you had the State of the Union address.
Right.
Have you incorporated any of the things that he's now doing in the past, week, 2 weeks, where he's now taking, presenting evidence against, Iraq, all these various things, and there's been a far more peace rallies, at least in the Boston area, D.C. Has that sort of woven into the show? Because I know it wasn't really part of it in December, because it wasn't as...
Right. Well, the whole thing with the State of the Union I thought was interesting, and this is where I think, it helps to be able to look at somebody objectively and go, okay, what did you like about the speech? Like the whole issue about, I think it's $3 billion more for AIDS in Africa.
Right.
It's a huge issue. It didn't get a lot of coverage after the speech because everybody's talking about the war, but that's a huge thing. And, I feel the man should be commended. And it just showed me how far we've really come on a lot of our thinking as a culture. I mean, you just look at when a conservative Republican is in the White House empathizing with people with AIDS in Africa. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's
huge.
Definitely. And I mean, just the disease, to be able to talk about AIDS publicly is a huge step. 20 years ago when the disease first surfaced, I mean, you remember how it was with people saying, there's a strange new disease. It was almost like a conspiracy of silence, There's a strange new disease sweeping the world, and it's killing Haitians, homosexuals, and drug addicts, and there's no cure. And all the politicians are like, shh,
Right.
Of course, 20 years later, well, you can also get it from sleeping with someone you only met once. Something should be done. This is serious. But that's something that came out of the State of the Union that just made me think about it. Also, some of the, the whole thing with Iraq and the weapons inspectors. I don't know what to believe. We can go to a clip if you want. There's some funny material there about it. But, these weapons inspectors, they've only been, a lot of these guys, they haven't been there in 4 years.
Right.
I'm saying Iraq is the size of California. And once again, the president was saying, Iraq is as big as California. There's 120 weapons inspectors. That's a lot of territory to cover for two. I mean, if the FBI can't find Whitey Bulger and he's on the payroll, how are these guys going to find weapons of mass destruction in a country the size of California? I mean, I can't find the password to my email, and it's on my desk.
Why don't we actually go to the clip, and if we have it set up, and look at that, because that's the thing. Your show does swing so well in between, somber moments to political stuff. Yeah. And I think we've got.
And there's a lot of material on Bush there that I do, and we start off right after, because he had a bounce back after September 11th, and he went through a lot of changes, and he actually gave me permission to be a comic again as well, as we'll see in the clip.
All right. Well, why don't we go to that clip? We have it ready, and I hope you enjoy. I'm here with Jimmy Tingle.
I now consider it my patriotic duty to be the best social and political satirist I can possibly be. And they said everything changed after the 11th. The first thing that changed in my life, folks, was me. All of a sudden, I found myself praying for Bush. Oh, God. God, I just pray the president does your will, okay? Whatever your will is, just let him do your will. I don't want to tell you how to do your job. I have one suggestion. please, God, don't let him say crusades again in public. And I pray for the entire cabinet, Lord. I pray for Colin Powell, Lord. I pray for Condoleezza Rice, Lord. Condi. I pray for Donald Rumsfeld, Lord. Rummy. I pray for Dick Cheney, Lord. Dickie. Wherever he may be. And I pray for John Ashcroft, God. He's probably listening. And you know who else changed, folks? Bush changed. Bush changed. He went from, questionable election and national joke in many people's eyes to, in many people's eyes, inspiring leader. His first speech after September 11th, he came on national television. He said, listen, I am declaring a war on terrorism and states that sponsor them. Whoa. When he said that, I called all my Irish friends and in-laws. I said, listen, you guys got to quit sending money to Northern Ireland. Bush is going to level the state of Massachusetts. But before September 11th, folks, I was having a ball with the Bush administration because they were funny people. They were funny people, compassionate conservative. When I think of Texas, compassion comes right to mind. Warm and fuzzy Texas. But I got the sense that as an administration, we were going back in time. They had Rumsfeld and Cheney in the cabinet. They were in Nixon's cabinet, I felt like we were going back in time. I mean, Al Gore, I admit he wasn't the greatest candidate in the world, but the man did write a book about the environment entitled The Earth and the Balance. It was about using alternative sources of energy, the power of the sun, the power of the wind, the power of the waves, right, for our energy. The Bush administration's idea of alternative energy is coal. Coal. You got the internet, you got coal. Oh, they were funny, though. And they started to surprise people right from the beginning. I mean, let's be honest, folks. In the whole country, they only got 9 black votes in the entire country, okay? And 2 are now in the cabinet. So what he did, to his credit, he created the most racially diverse cabinet since Clinton. Of course, it's Republican diversity, It's a little different. Sort of like a rainbow corporation.
All right, you were just watching Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land. Jimmy, now, so that was great stuff about George. Great stuff. And
I cracked myself up. I must say, I really cracked myself up.
That's excellent. Well, now, with things going as they are, where do you see, if we go to war, for example, where do you see your show going? Where do you see your comedy going? Is it going to be a little more stringent?
It'll be what it is. It'll be the same as it is. I mean, I just call it as I see it.
Right.
I try to call it as I see it. I try to, I don't know what to believe. I honestly don't know what to believe. It seems to me if they want to go to war, they're going to go to war. And Bush has been saying for, he's been giving Saddam Hussein all these different reasons over the last 6 months. First he says, well, Saddam Hussein has political prisoners, and that's why we should, he's not a democracy, he's political prisoners. So Saddam Hussein lets the prisoners go. And Bush is like, Jesus, look at that. This man is evil. He just let the prisoners go. He says, all right, they never have elections. You got to have an election. So he has an election. He gets every vote. Bush is pulling his hair out. I can't, every vote. I didn't even get every vote. And then he says, okay, all right, you got to send over all the documents for all your weapon systems. Send them over here. So Saddam Hussein sends over 12,000 pages of documents about the weapon systems, okay? It's in Washington 15 minutes, right? They're on television go, this is a big pack of lies. That's what this is. It's a big pack of lies. I'm saying it's only been in Washington 15 minutes. Who can read 12,000 pages in 15 minutes? What do you got, Evelyn Wood in the cabinet? You know, oh yeah, that boy can lie, lie. Boy, can that man lie? Look at this. Dick, turn to page 5,852. Okay, go down to the third paragraph right here. Here's another lie from Saddam Hussein. Could you bring that camera in a little bit? Could you bring that? Here's another lie from Saddam Hussein. It says here, in 1984, they had no chemical weapons. That's an obvious lie. That's the year we sold them to them.
Exactly. They're a tough administration to sort of wrap your head around because they seem to have a lot of the media as well in their hands. So how do you you know, sort of dispense between all these different formats and figure out what it is you believe?
I don't know. I just try to pay attention to what's out there and try to get bits and pieces from every group. You know, I mean, you read the mainstream media, the alternative press. I've heard a lot of people, very progressive people, think Saddam Hussein's got to go and that the Iraqi people are going to rise up and welcome us. I heard Christopher Hitchens saying he thinks the Iraqi people are going to rise up and welcome us into the, if we invade. And I'm saying, wouldn't that be ironic? You know, the one nation in the Arab world that's going to welcome us, and we're going to invade them.
Right.
You know, we'll be the most popular in that country. That would be very ironic. But I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know what it's like. I don't know as much as these people do.
Right.
You know, so I just try to pick out things that are a little odd, or I have problems with, or that I find are humorous. Right. And there is humor in this. Obviously, like these weapons inspectors. Okay, they haven't been there in 4 years. Now, if you didn't do something, if you didn't host this show in 4 years, if I didn't perform for 4 years, I would be a little rusty, okay? So I'm saying these guys are probably a little rusty. We should have had these weapons inspectors practicing here in the United States of America on our defense contractors, you know, so when they get over there, they know what they're looking for. You know, send them down to Lockheed Martin down in Texas, you know? Hello, Lockheed Martin. I am Hans Blitz from United Nations, and we were wondering, do you have any weapons of mass destruction? Do we have weapons of mass destruction? What you need, son? Come on in here. We got the cluster bomb, got the B-52 bomb, got the stealth bomber bomb, got the F-15, F-16, F-17, F you, F him, F her, F them. And so that's the way that's my take on it. You know, it's insane. Not insane, but it's just, there's an irony about us looking around the world for weapons of mass destruction when we have the most in the history of humanity. Right. And you know, and so that's just a fact. And pointing that out is funny. People laugh at it because they know it's true. You know, that's not to say that he should have them, but I'm just saying they know it's true, and and that's where the humor comes in.
Right. Now, humor, obviously, you've made it clear it feels a very powerful tool. You're also putting together, it's kind of in the formative stages, but a nonprofit.
The Peace Party?
The Peace Party, correct.
I started the Peace Party in the year 2000, and it's very small. What it is, it's me. It's a party of one. I'm the president of the Peace Party. I'm the president. I'm the board of directors. It's my Peace Party. I give money to people I like. You need some money?
Excellent.
Yeah. No, what it is the year 2000, though. I just felt I was very let down by the year 2000. At the time, I was at 60 Minutes, and I would see this tragedy in the paper. Every day I pick up the paper, all this horror. I go, you know something? I want to do something. I want to do something in the cause of justice and humanity, and you know, and I want to do something. So I just opened a bank account, really, and I called it the American Peace Party because I think that there should be a party in the society that is focused on peace and social justice, and that's what they do, you know, and to have a voice in our society. We got the Republicans, we got the Democrats, and you know, and they're fine, you know. But I think we need a unified force, you know, of people to speak out and to speak up for justice, really. And also the way, and once again, I don't know if this will ever go beyond my little checkbook. I don't know. But what I've been able to do is sometimes groups will ask me to do things and they don't have the going fee, but they can make some sort of a contribution, so I'm able to put some money into the bank. And then occasionally there's groups that I'm able, or individuals really. It's very grassroots, and I just help people that I feel that are worthy of a small contribution. Now, I don't want to get any letters and emails asking me for money, because the peace party is very, very small at this time. Like I said, it's a party of one. But from this table is Somerville Access Television. A movement could be born. Wait, get my hand. A movement. A movement could be born. But don't send me asking for money. I don't want to hear anybody out there saying, Jim, can you help me out? My bicycle broke down. I'm sorry. Take the tea.
Yeah, that's what we don't want.
Very
people.
peaceful, huh?
Very peaceful. Yes, exactly. Well,
no, but anyway. So anyway, it's just a way to, and I hope to use the theater to do more things that can help benefit groups and organizations that are already doing great work. I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel out there. There's already groups, and from time to time, people approach me, and if I can do benefits for people, and I can help use the theater for those ends, beautiful. You know, and I can just do what I can do as one person, and maybe the party, maybe a lot of people sign up when they come to the web page to get on. Like for example, we're doing something with the Peace Abbey in Sherburne, Massachusetts.
Okay, yeah.
We're doing a fundraiser for them, February 23rd, and we're trying to get Michael Moore to come in. I don't know if he's going to.
Wow.
Yeah, and we want to present him with an award, the Courage of Conscience Award, and that's an organization that I know they were very nice to me, and they have, I've been out there several times. It's beautiful out there if you've ever been out there. And they work towards peace and social justice all the time. So I don't have to do what they're doing. I can help them do what they're doing. And so that's basically. And so we're doing a fundraiser at the theater on the 23rd, and they're going to show a film called Stonewalk. And it's about, was shown on PBS. It's a film about the unknown civilian. And they took the tomb of the unknown civilian and pushed it down to Washington, D.C., and they tried to get it in Darlington Cemetery, and they couldn't get it in, so they brought it over to Europe, and they pushed it around Ireland. Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, and so we're going to show that, and hopefully maybe Michael Moore will be able to come, maybe not. But anyway, it's $50 a ticket, and the money will go to the Peace Abbey. Yeah, and it's those types of things I would love to use the theater for more. And we're going to be doing the road race here in Somerville. They do. Right, it's like a lot of different things. A lot of different things that it's not all, conflict resolution. A lot of it's just, when we talk about peace, it's just in your neighborhood, trying to help people. A friend of mine was a filmmaker. She made a film about God, about people's relationship with God and how they, their own view of religion and that type of thing. And so I was able to, the peace party was able to make a contribution to her. It's small things,
Right.
A lot of it. Another friend of mine lost her husband to cancer, and she ran a marathon to raise money for cancer research. And so, I was able to do things on that level. So it's not like I'm not dealing with the United Nations. Right. Like I said, it's a party of one, party of one, party of one.
But that's actually, and also, and
I give some money to my brother every now and then. His car breaks down. He needs to ride. You can't have your brother stranded. Charity begins at home. Your brother needs a cab fare. Here, take it from the peace party.
Well, and the other thing, now you're in Somerville, just something to keep on your calendar. But in the summer, there's Arts Beats as well, which is in Davis Square. There's a carnival sort of thing. I'm sure you'll get a lot of people involved in your theater through that as well.
Yeah.
But it's great to see you doing a whole bunch of different things like that. It's good to know there's someone out there merging humor and social activism. Are you, one thing that was clear, I know you said there's a religious thread throughout the show.
Yeah. Not so much religion, but spiritual.
Spiritual, yeah. And I think that's what I wanted to sort of touch on, is that the idea of unity really comes through.
Yeah.
And that was really important, I think, when we left the theater. We were like, my family felt unified.
Yeah,
and
really? Oh,
yeah,
good.
we felt really, we felt better about, I think it's also just the power of laughter.
Yeah.
But a lot of things came through in the show. Are you now looking past the show to other projects that are similar, or are you, what's the future
post show?
Post show,
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. Well, first of all, I'm glad that your family enjoyed it and they came together, and that's cool. Can you bring my family together?
I'll see what I can do.
My family's doing fine. They're doing great. We get together actually a lot. Everybody still lives in Cambridge. Well, my sister lives out in Princeton, but we get together quite a bit. Let's see. within the future of the show? I don't know. That's a big question. Jim, I'm going to take 10 minutes and just think about the future of the show, if you don't mind for a second.
If you won't, actually, we can go to a clip if you'd like. Not saying you have to ponder about that for 10 minutes.
We can go to a clip.
Well, why don't we go to a clip if we of the show?
What else is up there?
Yeah, we'll just throw some more up there. We've got a little bit of time left in the show, so let's go to a brief clip, and then we'll come back and finish up with Jimmy Tingle, who is here on Dead Air Live.
Very interesting. And I'll tell you something. Bush, I mean, during the campaign, you know, he said he was a uniter, not a divider, you know? And there turned out to be a lot of truth to that. I mean, 9 months into his administration, his environmental policies had upset the Russians. Excuse me, environmental policies had upset the Europeans, the Canadians, and the Japanese. His Star Wars policies upset the Russians, the Chinese, and the North Koreans. Within 9 months, this man managed to bring together Russia, China, North Korea, Europe, Canada, and Japan against us. The man was a miracle worker. He did in 9 months what 70 years of communism could not do. He united Russia and China. It's not easy to do, folks. But after the 11th, right, I started to empathize with, I go, here's a guy, look at this, he's put in this position, he never wanted to be the president. I think the Republican Party needed him more than he needed the Republican Party. But he had pedigree, and he had, you know, he's an affable guy, and he's a nice guy, and he's charming to a certain extent, and they needed average intelligence, so they needed somebody. They needed somebody that the American people could identify with, you know? And the analogy I like to use is, you remember during World War II, well, I don't either, I wasn't there, but during World War II, they would have these fighter planes, and when they wanted to make the fighter planes look more ferocious, they would paint teeth on them, you know? To make them look like, yeah, you know. I mean, I don't know who's gonna see the teeth from 25,000 feet. No, where the Germans run away, Jawohl, Commandant! They're really pissed off! Well, Bush is like the happy face on the B-52. And once the war in Afghanistan started, the whole world could see really what a compassionate conservative really was. First you get a bomb, something to eat. Massive death and destruction. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I gotta tell you, but I felt bad for them because they didn't want to deal with the international community. After the 11th, they had to deal with the international community, a war on terrorism, the UN, Europe. They don't want any part of these people. They want to act alone in the world.
All right, that was a clip from Jimmy Tingle's In the Promised Land. And again, you're through March 2nd.
Yeah, we're going through March 2nd, yeah. And Wednesday through Saturdays at 8 o'clock, Sundays at 3. You know, it's in the Promised Land, Davis Square, right on the red line.
Right.
Yeah, it's going great. And we're going to bring in some another show after this. And it's also going to be very funny. It's a very funny play. And it's called The New War. Okay. And it's going to be running, it's actually with the Wellfleet Harbor Actors Theater. And that's going to start March 7th. And that's going to run for at least 6 weeks there. And that's about the current war in Iraq and the media's response to it. And it's a comedy, believe it or not, and it's hilarious. It's already got great reviews from the Globe and from the Boston Herald. So we're looking forward to having that in. Excellent. And that's going to be very gratifying to be, you know, not performing in the theater, but just to be there and kind of overseeing and seeing people laughing at something else.
Right, yeah, take a step back.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, that's what we're doing. And in terms of, you know, in the future, like I said, we're going to be trying to bring more and more shows to the Davis Square area, to the theater. And personally, I'm just going to be writing and performing, and got ideas for, you know, radio and television ideas, and hopefully do some more film work. And
excellent. Keep yourself busy.
Keep them busy, yeah.
That's right. But I mean, it must be also, the theater got to be a gratifying experience through and through, I imagine.
It is. It's a ton of work,
yeah.
I have to tell you.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be work. I figured you just open the door, show up. Now they're saying, no, Jim, you got to pay bills. And you got to pay the staff. I said, what? Yeah, you got to pay the staff. I thought the staff was going to pay me. No, 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 no. You got to pay the staff. Yeah, so, I mean, there's a whole business aspect to it that is all new to me because I'm used to just performing and producing my show from time to time. Well, this is a constant production. Right. And we're working out the kinks, and it's going well.
Yeah, it seems to be. Now, people, if they want to get on your email list, check out, I think we've been putting up the website's been up, but it's jimmytingle.com.
jimmytingle.com. You can come there for information about the show. You can come there to order tickets online. You can get information, phone numbers, and things like that. Yeah. And, you know, where to call, and also you can sign up on the email list. Right. What we do with the email list is I just collect everybody's name, and then when we have a new show coming in, or if I'm going off, or we're going to give a discount or something. Right. Discount. You hear that, folks? Discount. Come to the email list, you get a discount. Right. And we're able to give a blast email and say 10% off or something for a show, you know, or 2-for-1s and some nights, things like that.
Right, right. Yeah, I've gotten some emails from the mailing list, and they're funny too. That's the thing. They're good. They actually have a nice little tone to them. So, really have enjoyed having you on the show. It's
My pleasure.
Great job. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Isn't this guy good?
Oh, hey.
Huh?
Hey.
How about it, folks? Hey. You, sitting on your couch, get up. I want a standing ovation for my man.
I'm blushing.
No,
I'm
wait,
blushing,
I
please.
want a standing ovation for my man.
Oh, well, hey, thank you, Jimmy, for coming through, and we'll show you.
For having me.
We'll finish up with another clip of Jimmy Tingle in the Promised Land, and people watch the credits because we'll have info on how you can get tickets for the show. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. They withheld money from the United Nations Population Fund because they didn't want money going to the third world that was going to teach sex education in the third world. They want the third world to learn and practice abstinence. Now, abstinence technically probably is the safest way to prevent teenage pregnancy and the spread of AIDS, okay? Technically. However, if abstinence didn't work with Bill Clinton, Bob Packwood, Gary Condon, Rudolph Giuliani, Jesse Jackson, and several hundred Roman Catholic priests, how is it possibly going to work with teenagers in Zaire? Oh, but you could see how they were withdrawing from the international debate about a lot of issues like the Middle East, the situation in the Middle East. I mean, it's the worst it's ever been to the Israelis and the Palestinians. I mean, they sent Colin Powell over there, but by the time Colin Powell got over there, what's he going to say? He's saying to the Israelis and the Palestinians, okay, listen, we want you guys to stop fighting, huh? Come together, make peace, and help us to invade Iraq. And now they got those weapons inspectors over.